Have you ever spent an entire night awake, your mind racing? That weight on your chest that feels like it will never go away? Welcome to the video that can completely change the way you deal with your struggles. Today, I'm going to show you how simply praying and trusting can transform your life in ways you never imagined. And look, I saved something very special for the end of this video. A biblical revelation that will make you see true peace in God in a completely new way. So stay with me until the very last second, because what's coming may be exactly what your soul needs to hear right now. This is the path for you to learn how to surrender everything to God and finally find the peace that the world cannot give. Shall we go together? Have you ever felt that weight that no one sees, but that you carry every day? That worry that won't leave your head, that wakes you up in the middle of the night, that makes you toss and turn in bed while the world sleeps? It's like you're carrying an invisible backpack full of stones that only you feel. And the worst part is, when someone asks, "Are you okay?" you smile and say yes. But inside, you know you can't carry this alone anymore. Do you know what happens when we try to control everything? When we think we need to solve every problem, predict every situation, protect every person we love? We become exhausted. Anxiety grows, fear sets in, and suddenly, what was just a worry becomes a monster that paralyzes us. The Bible speaks about this in 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. But how do we do that when everything seems to be falling apart? The truth is, many of us were taught to be strong, to not show weakness, to solve everything on our own. And then, when life gets tough, when the bills don't add up, when relationships are difficult, when health falters, we feel guilty for not being able to cope, as if it were our obligation to be superheroes. But wait, what if I told you that you weren't created to carry this alone? What if I showed you that there's a different path where you can leave your worries in God's hands and finally breathe? Because the big problem isn't having problems. Everyone has problems. The question is, who do you allow to carry them with you? When you try to control everything, you're basically saying, "God, I can handle this, thank you." But when you surrender, when you let go, when you trust, that's when a transformation begins that you never imagined possible. God takes care of everything, but first, he needs you to let go of control. And that, my friend, is harder than it seems. So tell me something, are you ready to discover what happens when you finally let go of this weight and rest in the hands of someone who can truly carry it? What if the solution wasn't in doing more, but in stopping? Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly where the secret lies. Before trying to fix everything, before chasing after 1,000 solutions, there's a simple, silent but powerful invitation. Just pray. It's as if God is whispering in your heart, "Stop, breathe, talk to me first." And man, when you understand that, everything changes. Prayer isn't a magic formula. It's not an emergency button you only press when you're desperate. It's a real conversation with someone who truly cares. It's you saying, "Father, I don't know what to do anymore. I need you." And you know what's beautiful about that? God isn't waiting for you to have the perfect words. He just wants you to come. Philippians 4:6-7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Let me tell you a story that will help you understand this better. Do you know Joseph from Egypt? That guy had plenty of reasons to give up. Imagine the scene. He was his father's favorite son. He had big dreams that God had given him. But his own brothers, driven by envy, threw him into a pit and then sold him into slavery. He ended up in Egypt, far from home, alone, with nothing. And when things seemed to be getting better, working in Potiphar's house, he was unjustly accused of something he didn't do and thrown into prison. Years in prison. Years. But do you know what Joseph did while everything crumbled around him? He prayed, he trusted, Even when it didn't make sense, even when it seemed like God had forgotten him, Joseph kept his faith alive through prayer for difficult times. He had no control over anything. He couldn't go home, he couldn't prove his innocence, he couldn't get out of prison. But he had something no one could take away: his connection with God. And man, look at the end of the story. God not only got Joseph out of prison, but made him governor of Egypt, the second most powerful man in the nation. And more, he used Joseph to save not only Egypt, but the very family that had betrayed him. Joseph learned something we all need to learn today. When you pray and trust, you're not asking God to fix everything your way. You're saying, "Lord, I place this in your hands. Do what is best, in your time, in your way." It's about trusting God in your struggles, even when you don't see a way out. It's about understanding that prayer is the first step, not the last resort. Because when you begin with prayer, you're acknowledging that you need divine help. And that changes everything. The question remains, are you willing to do what Joseph did? Praying first, before trying to solve everything on your own? Now comes the painful part, the part everyone avoids. Because it's one thing to pray, to ask for help, to confide in God. It's something completely different to truly let go of control. It's taking your hands off what you're holding onto so tightly and saying, "God, this is yours now." It sounds simple, but in practice, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do in life. Why is it so difficult? Because we have this illusion that we're in control. We plan, organize, anticipate, try to ensure that everything will work out. And when something goes off our script, we panic. But here's a truth that might hurt a little. You've never been in control. Never. You don't control people's hearts. You don't control circumstances. You don't control tomorrow. Proverbs 16:9 makes this very clear. The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. So what are you really holding on to so tightly? An illusion. Surrendering control isn't giving up. It's not throwing in the towel, crossing your arms and waiting for a miracle to fall from the sky. It's something much deeper and more liberating. It's recognizing that there is someone infinitely greater, wiser, more powerful than you, and that this someone loves you in a way you can't even comprehend. It's saying, "Lord, I did what was within my reach. Now I trust that you will do what is beyond my reach." That is total surrender to God. And man, when you do that, when you truly let go, it's like a ton of weight has been lifted off your shoulders. But there's a trick our hearts play. We say we've surrendered, but we keep thinking about it all the time. We keep trying to solve it mentally, creating plans, B, C, D. We keep losing sleep. Then you realize you haven't surrendered anything. You're just pretending. True surrender happens when you can lay your head on the pillow and sleep peacefully, knowing that God is in control, even if nothing has changed yet. It's trusting without understanding. It's having peace while the storm is still raging outside. And look, this doesn't happen all at once. It's a process. There are days when you'll give it in the morning and pick it up in the afternoon. It's human. But each time you practice this act of surrender, you strengthen your faith. You learn that God is trustworthy. You experience that peace that comes from knowing you don't need to have all the answers, because the one who has all the answers is taking care of you. And when you finally let go, do you know what happens? Something you never imagined. Your soul breathes for the first time. There's a moment right after you truly surrender everything to God that's almost magical. It's not magic, it's spiritual. It's that first deep breath after holding your breath for so long. It's when your heart, which has been racing for weeks, finally slows down. It's when your mind, which was a hurricane of thoughts, begins to quiet down. It's spiritual peace amidst the chaos beginning to blossom within you, even if the chaos outside still exists. Do you know that feeling of relief when you finally tell a secret you've been keeping, or when you pay off a debt that was consuming you? It's similar, only multiplied 1,000-fold, because you're not just relieved of a physical or emotional burden. You're experiencing something supernatural, the peace of God. And this peace, man, it doesn't make sense. The circumstances may be the same, the problem is still there, but you've changed. Your inner self has changed. Jesus said in John 14:27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." The peace the world offers depends on everything being all right. A full bank account? Peace. A healthy relationship? Peace. Good health? Peace. But when something goes wrong, peace goes away too. God's peace is different. It comes and stays, no matter what happens around you. Why? Because it doesn't depend on circumstances. It depends on God's presence within you. And when you learn how to feel God's peace, you discover that you can have peace even in the storm. You can smile even with tears in your eyes. You can sleep peacefully even with bills to pay. Before we continue, I need to ask you something quick. If this content is touching your heart, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like, because there are many people who need to hear this, and you can help this message reach more hearts. Share it with that friend who needs hope. Let's spread this peace together, a peace that only God can give. And now, come back with me. There's more. When the soul breathes for the first time after so much suffering, you begin to see everything differently. That problem that seemed gigantic remains large, but you're no longer just looking at it. You're looking to God first, and when you look to God, the problem becomes proportionally smaller. It's not that it has diminished. It's that you now have an understanding of the magnitude of the one who is by your side. It's like a child who is afraid of the dark, but then the father enters the room. The darkness remains, but the fear goes away. Why? Because the Father is present. God brings peace to the hearts of those who trust in Him. And this isn't motivational talk. It's spiritual reality. It's biblical truth. It's the experience of millions of people throughout history who have discovered that inner peace through faith is not only possible, it's promised. And when you experience it for the first time, you never want to live any other way again. But hold on, because there's something happening that you can't see yet, something behind the scenes of your life that will surprise you. Resting in God. Everyone talks about it, but few truly understand what it means. It's not about being lazy or irresponsible. It's not about crossing your arms and waiting for a miracle. It's something much deeper, something that touches the essence of our faith. It's about learning to breathe spiritually. It's about stopping fighting alone and starting to walk hand in hand with the one who never loses a battle. Think about it. When you're physically tired, what do? You rest. You lie down, sleep, and recover your energy. Nobody finds that strange, right? But when it comes to spiritual rest, we resist. We think we always need to be doing things, always rushing, always solving problems, and then the soul becomes exhausted. Matthew 11:28-29 is a direct invitation from Jesus. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Look how interesting. Jesus didn't say, I'm going to solve all your problems right now. He said, I'm going to give rest to your soul, because he knows that what tires us most isn't the problem itself. It's the weight of carrying the problem alone. It's the anxiety of not knowing what will happen. It's the fear of not being able to cope. When you learn how to rest in God's presence, you understand that rest isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of peace, even with the problems. It's you saying, I don't know how this will end, but I know who knows, and I trust in him. Do you know what the safest place in the universe is? It's not a vault, it's not a fortress, it's not a full bank account, it's in God's hands. When you rest there, when you truly surrender to that rest, something supernatural happens. The faith that calms the soul begins to grow. You stop fighting with God, questioning every detail, trying to negotiate. You simply trust. And man, that's not weakness. That's the purest strength that exists. Because true strength isn't about enduring everything alone. It's about knowing when to lean on someone greater. Some people confuse rest with passivity. Oh, so I don't do anything? That's not it. Resting in God means doing what you need to do, but without that deadly anxiety. It's working knowing that the outcome is in God's hands. It's studying, trusting that God will open the right doors. It's fighting for healing, knowing that God is the physician of physicians. It's walking with purpose, but without that paralyzing despair, because you know you're not alone. You know that God brings rest to the souls of those who trust in Him. And when you rest like that, you become unbeatable, not because you are strong, but because the one who sustains you is almighty. And while you rest, God works. Sometimes in visible places, but often where you cannot see. Have you ever stopped to think about everything God is doing behind the scenes in your life right now? While you sleep, while you work, while you struggle, God is moving pieces you don't even know exist. He's preparing answers, opening doors, closing paths that would lead you to the wrong place. He's speaking to people's hearts, changing situations, orchestrating a perfect symphony that you'll only understand later. And you know what's most incredible? He does it silently, without spotlights, without warning, because God doesn't need an audience. He works because He loves you. There's a beautiful passage in Isaiah 64:4 that says, "From ancient times no one has heard, no eye has seen any God besides you, who acts on behalf of those who wait for Him." Take this truth and let it sink into your heart. God works for those who wait on Him, not for those who despair, not for those who give up, but for those who trust, wait and rest in the certainty that He is working. And sometimes, my friend, the greatest test of faith isn't seeing the miracle happen. It's continuing to believe when you don't see anything changing. Remember that job you wanted so badly but couldn't get? Maybe God was preparing something better and you didn't know it. That relationship that ended and you thought it was the end of the world. Maybe God was saving you from something that would have destroyed you in the future. That door that slammed in your face. Maybe behind it was an abyss, and God protected you without you realizing it. We see so little. We only see the present, only the immediate. But God sees the whole movie. He sees the beginning, the middle, and the end. And with this complete vision, He works in your favor, even when you don't understand. That's why having hope in God during difficult times isn't naivete, it's wisdom, because you're placing your trust in the one who knows what He's doing. While you rest, God raises up people to help you. He creates opportunities where none existed. He plants ideas in the minds of those who can make a difference in your life. He changes the weather, the circumstances, the details. Everything conspires in your favor, not because you deserve it, but because He loves you unconditionally. And when you have faith to trust in God's process, you live lighter, because you know you don't need to solve everything. You just need to trust in the one who solves it. True peace in God comes precisely from this, knowing that He is working even when you don't see it. It's like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's sprouted, do you? You plant it, water it, and trust that the process is happening underground, in the invisible realm. And one day, you wake up and the plant is there, alive and strong. God works like that in your life. He plants miracles in the invisible realm, and in due time they sprout. Trust, rest, wait, because what God is preparing for you is greater than you can imagine right now. But I need to be honest with you. While God is working, your mind will try to sabotage you. Now we've reached the critical point, that moment when you surrendered everything, felt peace, rested in God, but suddenly anxiety returns, knocking on the door of your heart like an unwelcome visitor, and you think, but didn't I surrender that? Why am I feeling afraid again? Calm down, this is normal. In fact, this is the most real spiritual battle that exists, the struggle between anxiety and faith. And everyone who decides to trust in God goes through this. Anxiety is sneaky. It whispers in your ear, what if it doesn't work out? What if God doesn't answer? What if you lose everything? It reminds you of the past, of the times you were hurt, of the disappointments you've experienced. It paints catastrophic scenarios in your mind and makes you believe that you need to worry now or everything will fall apart. But here's a powerful truth. Anxiety is the opposite of faith. Where there is anxiety, faith is being suffocated. And where there is true faith, anxiety cannot take deep root. Philippians 4:6-7 is a spiritual remedy for this moment. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Did you notice the secret? The answer to anxiety isn't trying not to worry, it's praying. It's returning to God's presence. It's transforming that worry into prayer and spiritual rest. Every time anxiety knocks, you open the door to prayer. And there, in God's presence, peace returns. Do you know what happens in this struggle? Your mind wants to control. Your heart wants to trust. And the two fight inside you. The mind says you need a plan B, C, D. The heart whispers, rest, God is in control. And you're left there, in the middle of this internal tug of war. But every time you choose faith, every time you decide to trust, even without understanding, you strengthen your spirit. The faith that calms the soul doesn't arise from nothing. It is cultivated in moments like these when you resist the temptation to give in to fear and choose to believe that God calms the anxious heart. There are days when the battle is more intense. There are nights when you go to bed and worry tries to overwhelm you. And it's okay to recognize that. You don't need to pretend you're strong all the time. But in those moments, instead of giving in to anxiety, talk to God. Tell Him, Father, fear is trying to defeat me, but I choose to trust in you. Calm my heart as only you know how. And you know what's beautiful? God never ignores this request. He always answers, sometimes with a verse that comes to your mind, sometimes with an inexplicable peace that fills your chest, sometimes with a word from someone at the right moment. But He always answers, because God brings peace to the heart of those who seek Him. And when you win this battle once again, you realize something transformative. Rest is not the absence of struggle. It's trusting in the midst of it. Let's clear up once and for all one of the biggest misunderstandings about resting in God. Rest doesn't mean standing still. It's not about crossing your arms, sitting on the couch, and waiting for everything to fall from the sky. That's laziness, not faith. True spiritual rest is acting wisely, but without the anxiety that paralyzes you. It's doing your part, knowing that God will do His part. It's walking with purpose, but without carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Consider the example of David when he faced Goliath. He didn't stay in his tent praying and waiting for Goliath to fall on his own. No, David prayed, trusted in God, and went into battle. But notice, he went with confidence, not fear. He went knowing he wasn't alone. He said in 1 Samuel 17:47, "Then all those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and He will give all of you into our hands." David acted, but he knew that victory came from God. That's practical rest. That's finding inner peace with God while you face the giants of life. When you truly rest in God, you stop acting out of desperation and begin to act according to His guidance. You don't make impulsive decisions driven by fear. You seek God, listen to His voice in your heart, and then act with confidence. You study for the test, but rest knowing that the outcome is in God's hands. You look for a job, but don't despair, because you know God will open the right door. You fight for healing, but have peace even while waiting, because you trust that God knows what is best. This is the life of someone who has learned to leave fear in God's hands. The biggest difference lies in motivation. When you act without spiritual rest, you act out of fear of failure. Every step is fraught with anxiety. You don't sleep well, you don't eat right, you live in tension. But when you act resting in God, you act out of obedience and trust. You do what needs to be done, but with lightness in your heart, because you know it doesn't depend solely on you. You are God's partner. He guides you, strengthens you, empowers you. And that, my friend, completely changes your journey. There's a phrase I love: work as if everything depended on you, pray as if everything depended on God. Because in truth, everything depends on God, but He chose to work through you. You are the instrument, but He is the conductor. And when you understand this, when you live in this balance of action and rest, you discover a freedom you've never felt before. You stop demanding so much of yourself. You stop blaming yourself for things that are beyond your control, and you begin to live fully, knowing that God is in control of everything. That is trusting God in your struggles. That is living with inner peace through faith. And when you live like that, something extraordinary happens. Your entire life transforms into a continuous act of giving. What if I told you it's possible to live every day with that peace you felt when you surrendered everything for the first time? It's not fantasy. It's not just for special people or super believers. It's for you. It's for anyone who decides to make surrender a lifestyle, not a one-time event. It's about transforming, surrendering everything to God into a daily habit, a constant mindset. It's about literally living in God's hands all the time. But how do you do this in practice? Simple. You wake up in the morning, and the first thing you do is surrender the day to God. Before checking your phone, before starting to worry, you say, "Lord, this day is yours. Guide my steps. I place everything that will happen today in your hands." And during the day, when a worry comes, bad news, an unforeseen event, instead of panicking, you take a deep breath and say, "Father, this is also yours. I trust." That's how you live a life in God's hands. The truth is, life will continue to test you. Problems won't magically disappear. You'll still have bills to pay, challenges to face, and difficult people to deal with. The difference is that now you're no longer alone carrying all of this. You've learned that God takes care of everything, and you can rest assured in that certainty. Each morning is a new opportunity for surrender. Each night is a moment of gratitude for another day in the Father's hands. And little by little, this becomes natural. It becomes who you are. Proverbs 3:5-6 perfectly summarizes this. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Acknowledging God in all your ways means involving Him in everything. In work, in relationships, in finances, in health, in dreams, nothing is left out. And when you do this, when you truly live a life of continuous surrender, God straightens your paths. He opens paths where it seemed impossible. He transforms deserts into gardens. He makes the extraordinary out of the ordinary. And you know what's most beautiful? The more you live like this, the easier it becomes. In the beginning, you'll need to consciously remember to surrender. But over time, it becomes automatic. Your first instinct ceases to be fear and becomes faith. Your first reaction is no longer despair, it's prayer. You become a person who lives in spiritual peace amidst chaos, not because the chaos has diminished, but because you've learned to rest in the one who is greater than any chaos. And the people around you will notice. They'll ask, "How can you have so much peace?" And you'll be able to say, "It's not me, it's God living in me." Living in God's hands also means accepting that things won't always happen the way you planned. But you'll discover that God's plan is always better. Always. There's a song that says, "God's plans are better than mine." And man, that's true. When you look back, you clearly see how God guided you, protected you, blessed you, even when you didn't understand. And that gives you even more confidence to continue surrendering, continue resting, continue trusting, because you have a history of divine faithfulness. And if God has been faithful until now, He will continue to be. Always. And now, the time has come for the revelation I promised at the beginning. Prepare your heart, because this could change everything. Here we are, the moment I've been saving for you. the revelation that will crown everything we've discussed so far. And look, this isn't just a pretty theory, it's a promise from God recorded in the Bible that has been transforming lives for thousands of years. Are you ready? Then let's go. Philippians 4:7 says something absolutely supernatural. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Let me translate that into simple words. There is a peace that cannot be explained, a peace that doesn't make logical sense, a peace that the world looks at and doesn't understand how you manage to have. It's the peace that comes when you lose everything, but still smile because you know God is with you. It's the peace that allows you to sleep peacefully even with enormous problems. It's the peace that makes you sing in the middle of the storm. This is true peace in God. It's not a peace based on favorable circumstances. It's a peace rooted in the presence of the Almighty within you. And do you know why it surpasses all understanding? Because it doesn't come from reason, it comes from the Spirit. It's something only those who experience it can comprehend. You can try to explain to someone, "I'm at peace," and the person will look at your situation and say, "How so? Your life is a mess." But you will smile because you know something they don't. You know the secret. You have learned to rest in God. And this has given you access to a dimension of peace that surpasses any human logic. Now, pay attention to this part. The Bible says that this peace will guard your heart and your mind. Do you know what that means? That it acts like a fortress, like a shield, like a spiritual protection around what you think and what you feel. When anxiety tries to invade, God's peace blocks it. When fear knocks on the door, God's peace doesn't let it in. When despair wants to overwhelm you, God's peace keeps you firm. This isn't automatic. This happens when you live what you've learned here, when you pray, surrender, rest, and trust. Then God's peace becomes a guardian of your heart, and there's more. Isaiah 26:3 adds another layer to this revelation. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Perfect peace, not a partial peace, not a temporary peace. Perfect, complete, unshakable. And what is the secret? Firm purpose and trust in God. When you decide to trust God no matter what happens, when you set your purpose to live in His hands, God keeps you in perfect peace. No matter the storm outside, inside you, total calm. That is God bringing rest to the soul in its fullest expression. So let me ask you one final question, straight to your heart. Do you want to live like this? Do you want access to this peace that the world cannot give and cannot take away? Do you want to be protected by God's peace even when everything around you is crumbling? Then the path is simple. Not easy, but simple. Just pray. Surrender everything. Rest. Trust. And watch God work. Because when you do this, when you truly learn to rest in God, you discover the true peace in God that your soul has always sought. And this peace, it's not a final destination. It's the beginning of a completely new life. Look where we've arrived. We started by talking about that invisible weight you are carrying alone, remember? And now here we are, experiencing a peace that surpasses all understanding. This is no coincidence. It's the result of a real spiritual journey that begins with a simple decision to stop trying to control everything and learn to rest in God. I know it's not easy. I know that tomorrow, when you wake up, the problems will still be there. But now you have something different. You have a path. You know you can pray, surrender, trust. You know you don't have to carry anything alone. You've discovered that God takes care of everything, and that true peace in God doesn't depend on your circumstances, but on your trust in Him. So here's my challenge for you today. Begin. Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Don't wait until you feel like it. Start now. Say a simple prayer. Say, "God, I surrender everything into your hands. Teach me to rest in you." And then observe. Observe how God begins to work. Observe how peace begins to grow. Observe how your life transforms when you learn to simply pray and trust. If this video touched your heart, I need to ask you something. Share it. So many people need to hear this. That friend who's depressed, that cousin who's anxious, that colleague who's lost. Send this video to them, because the message that we can rest in God and find true peace needs to reach more hearts. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and in the comments tell me, what did God speak to you today? Which part of this video touched your heart the most? And remember, when you choose to trust God in your struggles, when you decide to leave your worries in God's hands, when you practice prayer and spiritual rest every day, you're not just surviving, you're truly living with purpose, with peace, with hope. Because God is in control, and He cares for you with a love you can't even fully comprehend. So go rest in God. Go surrender everything to Him. Go pray and trust. And watch how God calms the anxious heart, brings peace to the wounded heart, and transforms your life in a way that only He can. The journey doesn't end here. In fact, it's only just beginning. And I can guarantee you one thing. When you learn to live in God's hands, you'll never want to live any other way again. May God bless you mightily. May His peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding, guard your heart and mind. And may you experience every day what it truly means to rest in God and find the true peace that only He can give. Isaiah 41:10 to conclude. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. He is with you. He always has been. He always will be. Rest.